Yesterday we learnt about few
concept, that is style binding. We learnt about how styles are binded in React application. So data binding and style binding, these two things we discussed. So why we need style binding? In order to format the appearance of any element dynamically, then you have to apply styles dynamically. To apply the styles dynamically, we need to follow certain syntax. So actually, style binding uses a style attribute which is expecting an style object. Style object, it is a binding. In the binding, we need to define an object. And this object contains style attribute, which is in camel case, and its value. Multiple attributes and its value. You have to define like this. Yesterday, we saw one example of dynamically how we can apply the styles, how we can create the styles. So this is actually one simple point we learned. So when we are not entering any name, you click enter. Without entering, its appearance will change. That we applied by using what? Style. So this is okay. We are accessing the style from particular object and we are handling. Actually, entire object can be applied, individual appearance can be applied. Separately, we can change the appearance of any element. For example, suppose, let's see. If you want multiple styles to apply, then instead of using style, you can use a class. If you want to apply multiple styles, then better you can define a class. By using the class, you can modify. For example, let's see how we can use class binding. Right? Yesterday we saw style binding. I will give one more technique here, one more concept I will show you. Let's see. Let's create one design here just to understand style binding in a better way. I'm giving one more example. Style binding. And here we have some paragraph and sample text. So this is some paragraph and sample text we are having. Now this paragraph is having text center something, means it will display like this. Now I want to change the format of this. Dynamically I want to change. So then I am giving like this. Suppose I am adding a data list, data term. I'll say font size. I will give a input type is equal to range. And here, so minimum is equal to some 10. I am defining minimum is 10. And maximum I defined as 100. That is a simple slider we are having. And value is 10. Value is the default value. It is 10. This is a slider. And when I am changing the slider, I want the font size to change. That means when slider is changing, I want the font size to change. That means we need to apply the style dynamically. How do you apply the style dynamically here? Just what we do is simply, we have to write an event here. And we need to apply font to this particular text. Then see what we can do here. So we will create one more option. This is a font color. We are using font color. And font color, we will put here. Suppose input type is equal to color. There is a color input here. This is the color input here. Now user must able to change the font size and change the font color. And when user selects a color, that color must apply here. And when user changes the font size, that size should apply here. So how to change the appearance of that element dynamically? Now we need to change two properties for that. What are those? Font size. Another one is font color, right? Then what you can do is, we can write here a simple object constant. And here I will define styles. And I will use set styles. and styles. This object contains two properties. What is the property name? The property name is font size. I already told you in React, style attributes are defined in camel case. And what is the value? Value I just given initially 10 pixel. That is the default value. I am just giving 10 pixel. Okay. After that, I am defining comma color. Another property color. What is the color value? That means we are defining another color. What is the color value? So color value I defined by default to some black. That is the color value you configured. That is font size, and this is the style. This style we want to apply for this text. Then we have to use a style binding. So we have to write style, and it is expecting an object. And what is the object name? Style. Now here you can see those styles are defined for that. By default, it is black in color and its size is 10. Now I want to change its appearance based on these values. So we are writing here on change. On change means here we write handle font size change. That is the function. So we are writing a function here. So we are writing function handle font size change. How much size they are selecting, I need to collect. Then we have to use E. E is for event arguments. We can use event argument. And here I want to apply set styles. It is an object. In this object, we have font size. It gets the value from E dot target dot value. Value is nothing but slider value. The slider value you are collecting and plus pixels. Because slider value is a number and styles need pixels. Means plus pixel, number plus pixel. Next, what should be the font color? So that is color. Color should come from styles. From styles, whatever the color is there, it should come. That means what is the color by default? It is black. That color will be used. What is the size of text? That comes from the value of slider. Value of slider. That means what happens here? When we are changing, its font size is changing. But this slider is not changing, means because we kept a fixed value for that. Actually, this value, what is the value of the slider? You see, this is the value of slider. This comes from where? It is not standard 10. It will come from styles dot font size. It will come from font size. That is not font size, it's a number. We need a number. That is not correct. You can see you adjust, it should adjust that. Because this is a pixel value, px. That means we have to use a number. We need to just use the number. So if I don't use this value, I am not using the value. If I am not using the value, you can see default value is here. I am adjusting this now. You can adjust that here. That means you are changing the slider and it is changing the font size. We are adjusting the font size. If I want to use value and I want to use the pixels, then we need two different variables, means different state to maintain. That I will show you in another example, how we can do that. Another concept. As of now, when you are changing this, then the font size is changing. The font size is changing. So dynamically, you are changing the style. Now, how about color? When user selects the color, this color must be applied. Do you know what this color picker returns? In HTML, a color picker returns hexadecimal color code. 6-character hexadecimal color code it will return. That means actually now I am writing here another option. What is it? On change. Handle color change. Now I am writing a function here. I am defining the function. So function, what is that function? Yeah. So the function handle color change. We need to get E. E is the color value and we need to set styles. In set styles, an object contains font size. Font size is what is the size they already have. That means we will get from styles dot what? Font size. What is the font size they are having? And what it is the color? Color will come from e dot target dot what value. This is color picker value. The color picker value we can access and use it. Now you can see here. I am selecting the color here. This is the font size. I am adjusting the font size. I am choosing a color here and that color will apply. The font size and the color, which color we want, you can select the color. It will apply that color. That is changing the appearance of any element dynamically. Any set of effects we can apply. That we can do by using a simple technique of style binding. Generally, style binding is good when we want to apply some effects to a particular element. If same set of effects need to be applied for several elements in several locations, then style binding is not great. Then what you can do, class. Class binding advantage is you can even use bootstrap classes. You upload and import in index. You can access and use from anywhere. So if there are styles to be used across components and several styles need to change simultaneously, then instead of styles, you can use classes. You can use class binding. Class binding allows you to change the class dynamically. We can change the classes dynamically, which are required in various occasions. I will show you. Now let's see how class binding works. This is an example of style binding. I will keep this example style.binding.jsx. This is style binding example. Let's see class binding, how it works. How we can dynamically define the classes and configure the classes. Class means your wish. You maintain a separate CSS, write the classes, import them and use them. If you have ready-made bootstrap classes also, we can apply. These are very, very important in designing forms, creating validations for the forms, and handling validation messages in the forms. Everywhere we have to use these techniques. So let's see how. For example, see. Later you will learn form and validation. I will add one more component here. Let's add another component and give the name as, I will give the component as class binding. So class binding, let's add a new file, class binding dot JSX. Okay, class binding JSX. Now here we will design a simple component, export function class binding component. Okay, and here it will return. Here I am designing a simple form. I am creating a form. I am adding a form. Let's keep it div. Yep. And this is having container fluid. And here we are defining class deflex, justify content center, and align items center. And I am adding a style. The style contains height as some 500 pixels. And just now we learned how to write inline styles. You cannot write in your HTML way. You have to write a object like this, right? Now we are designing a form. And here we are creating a header. So with a span. So class name bi some person fill. And here we say user login. And we have a data list with data term, username, and a text box. Input type is text. And here we are defining class name form control. Everywhere we are using classes here. And password. These are all bootstrap classes we are using. Now input type is text. And here we have class name, password. And here we have class name form control. And there is a button here and the login and the class btn dark w100. Okay, this is the form we are having. And this is the class binding we need to keep in the startup. So class binding component is in the startup. Now this is how the class binding component looks like. This is some component. That is the default component we are having. So I am using here the component. These are default values, something they are coming here. Now what happens is I am applying for this component. For this component, I am just adding a div with a margin class name margin top. So 2 or 4 or say margin bottom 4. And here I am using an input type is equal to checkbox. I'm using a checkbox. And for this checkbox, I will put a class name. Class name is equal to form check input. Form check input is the class name. And for this, I will give as class as form switch. And here I will say dark mode. And you can see this is the checkbox we have. Now what should happen is when I turn on this dark mode, this form should change to dark mode. That means I want to change the complete appearance of the form dynamically. The background, the colors, everything I want to change dynamically. That means I need to apply some set of effects, not for one element. Style binding is good if you are applying for one element. Because styles are written inline, you know inline styles. Inline styles are good if you are applying for one element. Here, not for one element. The appearance of form should change, the button should change, the appearance of this colors of text should change. If you want several elements to change dynamically, then that is not possible with style binding. You have to apply through classes. For example, see now what we are doing here. Just I am writing here one simple logic. That means what we have to do is, this is the form we are having. And what we will do is, we will create a use state import. So use state from React, and let's create a reference variable. We will create a constant. So and theme and a set theme like this we define. And it is usually use state. What is class name? Class name is a string. Class name is a string. Style is a object, but class name is just a string. And multiple classes, how you can apply in a string? You can separate the classes with spaces. Then multiple classes can work. Right now, what we have to do is, when user is changing, that means this theme is currently empty. Nothing is there. We will apply that theme to form. We will apply the theme to form. How do we apply? Just we have to use class name is equal to, it is coming from theme. And theme is currently empty. That means class is empty. Now we will verify whether they selected this checkbox or not. That means what we will do now, for this checkbox, we will write an event on change. This is handle theme change. We will write a function here. So the function is handle theme change. And here we have to collect the checkbox details through event argument. We will write a condition. What is it? If e dot target dot checked, checked property is present for checkbox. If it is checked, set theme, we have to apply a theme name called, I will apply the theme bg dark, text white. Remember, these are bootstrap classes. I am writing bootstrap classes. Text dark, bg white, padding 3. I am applying these effects for that. Now, this is the theme which is applied when checkbox is checked. That means now here, when checkbox is checked, the form is applied with that. It is changing the appearance of all elements. You can change multiple. I am turning off this now. Again, it should be normal. That means here we are setting an option. What is it? Else. What is it? Set theme. It should be empty. We are not applying any class. Class, whatever classes are there, they are removed for that. That means now here, this is default, not selected. I click, it is applying the theme. And I remove, then it will hide that and normal. That means we are dynamically changing the appearance of that particular element. You can change the appearance for any element. That means not only one element, you can change appearance for any element. That means, for example, I am just using theme. Suppose I am defining a constant. This is button theme, and set button theme. and it is use state, and it is using by default btn dark is there, and w100 is there. That is the default it is. For button, I am using the class coming dynamically from, it is coming from where? From button theme, And what should happen when it is checked? We have to set button theme. But set button theme, we will say btn light w100. That is the theme. If not selected, set button theme, it should be btn and btn dark and w100. We are changing the button appearance. That means the class, it will change the appearance for button. And I will turn off, then it will change normal. That means we can change the appearance of elements dynamically by using this. This is basic. We can affect entire page. Currently, you haven't learned validation. That is the reason I am just showing with a switch. Later, when you learn validations, when user enters wrong data, entire form will turn to red. If user enters all valid data, then it will turn to green. Any field is error, then it will turn to red. All fields are valid, then it turn to green. That means entire form background will change. For that, we will learn about validations. In validations, we can apply such dynamically. So, in reality, a form and a page appearance will not be same. Dynamically, it will be changing according to the situation and the requirements. And for that, we need to apply the classes, styles. What is difference between style binding and class binding? Style binding is only for a specific element. So class binding for multiple elements, you can apply simultaneous. So that is important. So you are trying to affect only one element, style binding is enough. You are trying to affect multiple elements with multiple effects, then better you use class. And you may ask here, like, where you written these classes? BG, dark, text, white, button, 100. We haven't written these classes. Then how they are working? They are working from Bootstrap. So where you imported Bootstrap, we are not importing in this form. Na? We are not importing here, but in index we imported. So it will work in any component. So if any style you want only for this component, then import here. If you want for all components, then import in index. Then it will be available for everyone. So dynamically, the appearance can change for element like this. Suppose you want to write something like, let's say one thing. Suppose later I told you that we will use validation. Suppose username is not entered. Without entering username, they click outside. Then I should put some red color to the form. I need to change the theme of the form dynamically if it is invalid. Then usually what you can do here, so you can write an event for this text box. What is it? On change. So what we will do is, we will say handle name change. Okay, we will write a function here. In the function, we are using handle name change. On name change, we will collect what name he entered, and we will write here, if e.target.value is equal to empty. That means there is no value entered inside the text box. If it is empty, then what should happen? If the value is empty, there is no value inside the text box, then I will set theme. And what is the theme? Here I will set a theme called BG danger. I will just put text some white, right? I will just put some padding 2 or something like this. This is the theme we are applying. Otherwise, else we will put set theme as suppose BG success. So we define some text white and padding 2 like this. We are applying the theme. That means when user is not entering anything inside the text box, that means, so you are not entering anything inside the text box. Now it is red. That means that changes to red. I am entering anything in the text box, it is green. That means it dynamically changes. You are handling a validation. Based on that, it is changing the appearance. So you may think like colors, fonts, sizes, why they are important for React, right? Why I need to know about these colors and effects and all. This is what major UI is, because these days we want contextual UI. That means in advanced applications, we don't want to put lengthy message, invalid, do this, do that. Those days gone. We will never show messages. We will simply put contextual colors effects for displaying errors. You are still writing a lengthy paragraph explaining about what he done, he will get irritated. Not irritated. The point is they are not good for compact screens like mobiles and all. These days, users are very intelligent. They know that there is something wrong. Just show a small tip and hide, right? And change and display everything through colors. That is better. This is very important concept, especially when you are dealing with validations, right? That is basic actually. Now I turn on dark mode, it will be dark mode. Anything entered wrong, then turn off the dark mode. Anything entered wrong, then so you haven't entered anything, it is green. You not entered red. These are the options here. Dark mode also, if you want some logic to happen, then you see in dark mode also it will apply, because then when it is valid, the new class will apply on. When it is invalid, then it should remove the class. You can define in any situation, right? This is called as what? Class binding. And this you will see in various occasions in other locations also, right? So this is the concept. We call it as what? Class binding in React. Class binding in React is nothing but you can define a CSS class dynamically to any element. And for that, a simple basic syntax you have to know. Just you have to use a container or any element you use. It uses a class name, and here we have to put the reference name. Any reference name you have to define. Usually, what will be the reference name type? Actually, reference name type is what? It is a string type. What is the reference name for styles? The reference name for styles is an object type, and the reference name for here is a string type. And how do you define multiple classes? You define multiple classes by using the technique of spaces, right? You know, classes are defined with spaces, right? Now, based on this, I will show one simple real world scenario how it actually works also. That means validation you already saw. Actually, for example, suppose you will see this in general real-time scenarios regularly also. Let's take another one. I will add another component. Yeah. So this is class demo. Okay. And I am using class demo.jsx. Okay. Class demo.jsx. Just I will use another one. This is export function. So class demo component. Okay. And it will return some presentation. Okay. Now here I will take one simple example of in general real requirements. For example, I am importing use state, and it is from React. Okay. Now I am creating here, so container fluid, and here let's create a state constant, and it is cities. It is this cities is an array. Use state, it is an array of string type. Suppose we have like Delhi, so Hyderabad, then Mumbai, like this, and we have like Chennai, so we have like Bangalore. Now, what I want here is I want to display all the cities here. So we will put here cities list. And here we have an unordered list or ordered list. And cities.map, we read every city. And we will print the city in the form of a list item with a key as city and city. That is binding expression. We print the city. Okay, let's keep this class demo in the startup, class demo component in the startup. Now you can see these are all the cities list we are having. Now what is the point is, I will keep here. So I will keep here a simple button for cities list. I'm just adding a button. And this button is having a span where we are applying a class name. The class name is coming from, let's put here. So constant, this is button class and the set button class. Okay, and here we are using use state, and it is a string type, and we are using bi sort alpha. Bi sort alpha. Bi sort alpha is a class, and that we will bind here. And this is what? Button class. Button class. That means, so here you can see there is a button. Bi sort alpha up. We have up and down, right? Bi sort alpha down. This is the button. Now, what is the concept here is, so margin bottom 3. I think by seeing this, you understood what should happen. Margin top 3. Okay. By seeing this, you know what should happen. Right? Now, what should happen here is, for example, see now, I'm just using that logic. Let's say here, the class name. Oh, the class name is BTN, and BTN suppose success. BTN success. It's a small button we are having. Now, I hope you know what to do. I click on this button. It should sort this in ascending, and it should change this icon to descending. How? That is a very general requirement. Anywhere you see data filtering, sorting like options, this is a very common thing you will see. And this is what we need in every data filtering, sorting like functionality. Now tell me how to do that. Once click, it should change to upper. Again click, it should change to lower. How you will write 2 clicks for a button? I hope in JavaScript you learned how to write toggles. If you learned JavaScript, you might have learned how to design toggle buttons. It's a very regular and important concept to design toggle buttons. That is a very common practice in every websites. Once click on, again click off. How you will write toggle buttons? What is the event written for toggling? For toggling, event is click only. For toggling, event is click only. But actually, generally toggling is nothing but, see, for this button, we are writing on click. On click. That is button click. That is sort handle sort click. Okay, we are using handle sort click. On sort click, so here we are accessing a function. Function is handle sort click. On sort click, E. E means button related details. I'm accessing button related details. So I'm writing here a simple use state. That means we are using set class, the button class we need to do. I'm writing a condition. If E dot target is button dot class name, it's class name. If class name is, if that particular class name is, what is that class name? The class name is, so bi sort alpha down. If it is sort alpha down, that is the class name. What should happen? So we are using, so here set button class. Button class we are setting bi sort alpha up. Otherwise, so we are giving set button class bi sort alpha down only. Sort alpha down only. That's a condition we are using. That means here, when I click on this button, it should say up. And I click on this button again, it should say down. So it is dynamically changing now. That is how we create toggles. This is very, very important. This is almost out of 100 React projects you work, in every project you do this. Sorting, filtering, searching, everything is a common thing in every React application. In React application, 100%. You cannot imagine a React application without the functions like filter, sort, searching, insert, editing, updating, deleting. CRUD operations and this. Now tell me how to sort that list. How do we sort the list? We use array methods. That means what should happen here? So if it is sort alpha down, that means we have to just use here. Suppose I am giving cities.sort. cities dot sort. That means what happens here? I click here, then it should sort B, C, D, H, right? Again, I click on that. Again, I click on that. Then what should happen? Reverse. Reverse means cities dot sort. After that, cities dot reverse. Because array reverse is not descending. Array reverse is not descending. Array reverse is from back to top. That means bottom to top. That's the reason we have to sort and reverse. That means now what happens here? I click this descending order. I click this ascending order. That means we need to change the icons here. I click on this, it is ascending order. And I click on this, that is in descending order. We can sort and we can display according. Symbols, icons, your wish. You can change anything. That means we need dynamically to apply the classes and modify the functions. This is not so a simple thing in general real-time development, because currently you are dealing with only one column. In real-world development, you will have a table. You have to sort by field names. That means you need to keep sort for every field. Name field, price field, every field have sort. And such implementations we will see how to do that. Now I hope you understood why these class bindings are required. That means we need to change the dynamic appearance of any element, right? This is example for that, right? How we can apply. This is example class demo.jsx. This is example. I'm just using a simple concept to make you understand how dynamically the classes are important. Why we need to change the classes dynamically, how we can define them, right? This is one simple concept of creating toggles. This you will see everywhere. For example, you are designing a show height toggle. Show height toggle means once click, you will show I slash. Again click, you show I open, right? That means it will hide, it will show. Same button will be working for both situations. That is what toggling is, right? These are simple things to understand, and this comes under which category? Class binding. So we have two important things. What are those? Style binding and class. I hope you are clear. So three basic things you learned: how to bind the data, how to bind the classes, and how to bind the styles. Now we are going to use all these and implement in some different examples. Now we are going to see that. Now next important, in React as a UI developer, you need to know event binding. In every web development, front-end development, libraries, frameworks, you have these all things common. Even if you are in future learning Angular, Vue-like technologies, there also you have to write the same things. That means you have to learn the same things, means data binding, class binding, style binding, event binding, but process is different. Their features are different, their process is different. But every front-end development will have this. Even you are developing a JavaScript jQuery application also, you will have this, right? Now let's see what is event binding and what are the points about event binding. So already we used some events here and there, but we need to know more detail about this, right? So that we can correctly handle it. And here, some new things you will learn. So when you are dealing with classes, as of now, we are dealing with still functions. But once we go with classes, some more differences will come. That means we are creating function components. In class components also, I will show you. In class component, how data binding works, how class binding works, style binding works, how event binding works. Because in class components, a little change will be there, right? But it is not difficult. Once you know function component bindings, class component changes, you should know. That's it. So what is event binding? Let's see. Technically, let's say, actually, what is event? Technically, what is event? This is the first basic point you need to understand. What is event? So technically defining, event is a message sent by sender to its subscriber in order to notify change. That is the official definition of event. Event is a message sent by sender to its subscriber in order to notify the change. Actually, so which software design pattern event uses? Actually, event follows a software design pattern called, we call it as observer. It follows a software design pattern called observer. Observer is a software design pattern. And very important is what is the mechanism. What is the mechanism of event? Actually, event uses delegate mechanism, so which is function pointer mechanism, which is a function pointer mechanism. These are some technical questions asked for experienced people in interviews, right? So what is event? What is event design pattern? And what is the mechanism of event in the background? These are three basic things. Actually, event is a message sent by sender to its subscriber in order to notify the change. I will explain that point. Generally, when you are working with various events, you know, in general JavaScript and all, I will show you a simple point here. Here we have a function. Some insert click is a function. Now we have a button. On click is equal to, we are writing, what is it? Insert click. Actually, by seeing this code, what majority of people think about the background functionality of this? Majority of people, by seeing this, they think that there is a function called insert click, and we are calling the function insert click when button is clicked. That is what majority of people think, which is not. That means you are not calling the insert click function. You are pointing towards that function. You are not calling the function. You are pointing towards the function. See, that is the reason you will see here interesting point. Why it is on click? Why it is insert click? Why it is insert click? If it is function calling, it should be parenthesis. Parenthesis means we are calling the function. You are calling the function. But this is not calling the function. Actually, this is pointer mechanism. That means anywhere, if anybody is writing like this, means he is not calling the function. What he is doing, he is pointing towards that function. Event is not at all function calling, function pointer. This is called, we call this as what? Delegate mechanism. Delegate means function pointer mechanism. So this, we can see that here generally. Suppose I will show you ordinary HTML page. Yeah, in this HTML page, I am designing a simple, so button insert, and here I am writing on click, insert click. Okay, and here we have a script, and the script is empty. Is there any function called insert click? No, there is no function called insert click. If there is no function called insert click and you are calling that function, obviously it should show error saying that there is no insert click. See here, now I am running this, and you can see I am running this, and let's go to the console, right click, inspect, and you can see this is console, and in the console, you can observe in the console, there is no error. If you are calling a function which is not at all there, it should show error. So that means we are not calling the function. When I click this button, now it tries to point towards the function. Means it is trying to communicate. This is communication pattern. In software technology, it is a communication pattern. That communication pattern is called observer. In software technologies, we have three types of patterns: creational, structural, and behavioral. So that's a big concept. Later, whenever situation and time comes, I will explain. But that is not a part of any concept for us. But knowing about is important for senior developers. They need to know this. So actually, when I click insert button, then it will show error. That means it is not calling the function. It is pointing towards the function. So it is a function pointer. And very important here in this, actually, this is called subscriber. And this is called, we call this as sender. That means sender sends a notification to the subscriber. It sends a notification to the subscriber that now you do this work. That means subscriber contains actions to perform, but they are not performed. When they are performed, when sender sends a notification. Sender sends a notification that click happened, you execute. That means sender is sending a message to the subscriber and subscriber is performing the functionality. So this is a communication pattern. We call this communication pattern as observer. Observer is a communication pattern. Actually, in software development, lot of design patterns will be there. I will explain those design patterns related things later whenever time permits, right? Because that's a different topic. But in software development, everything is design pattern. In software development, everything is a design pattern. Actually, I will tell one simple example, some basic patterns I will explain. You have learned so many design patterns, actually. So many design patterns you have learned, some patterns you may not know. You learned map. We learned map. Map uses a design pattern called iterator. What do you think iterator means? It is the name of a software design pattern. What is the pattern purpose? It reads elements from a collection in a sequential order. Without any condition, without initialization, without counter, they can read. What is difference between for loop and for iterators? What is difference between a loop and iterator? Loop requires a initialization, loop requires a condition, loop requires a counter. But iterators doesn't require. You don't need to tell where to start. You don't need to tell where to end. You don't need to tell how to proceed. They know how to do that. That is why they are called iterators. Iterator is a software design pattern used to access the elements from a collection in sequential order. Actually, in computer technologies, we have 23 design patterns. We have 23 design patterns. These 23 design patterns, we call them as gang of 4 patterns. These 23 gang of 4 patterns are categorized into 3 groups. We have creational patterns, we have structural patterns, we have behavioral patterns. Creational patterns, structural patterns, and behavioral patterns. These are 3 categories actually. And creational patterns deal with object creation mechanism. They deal with object creation mechanism, how an object is created for a class. Structural patterns deal with designing of classes. They deal with designing of classes. And behavioral pattern deal with communication. They deal with the communication. Iterator, observer, this all comes under behavioral. Creational pattern means you might have heard about singleton. If you learn Java, .NET, C++, OOP concepts, anything, you know singleton pattern. Singleton is a pattern where an object can, where a class can have only one object. We call that mechanism as singleton. These are all design patterns, very important for software developers at experience level. Because project development happens through these design patterns. I will tell you one simple basic example. Later we will go detail about that, right? Basic example. Like we have a game like chess. Chess game is there. You are new to chess. You don't know how to play chess. Okay. Then you purchased a book written by a grandmaster of chess, world #1 grandmaster. He written a book how to play chess. And you read the book and you learned how to play chess. That means now you are perfect. You know everything about chess. You learned all the rules. You know how every piece moves. You know all the conditions. You are perfect in learning chess. Now with this knowledge, can you attend chess tournaments and play with experienced people? Why not? You learn chess. You learned everything about chess. Then why can't you play with experienced people in chess tournaments? There is nothing like experience. There is nothing like experience, right? Even what rules he knows, same rules you also know. The point is very simple. Actually, the people who are playing that game from long time, they know some tricks about it. Those tricks are not everywhere mentioned in books. Those tricks are implemented according to situation. Due to that, they can easily win the game by applying some tricks on you because they already gone through them. They are experienced them. For example, see now, suppose a general point here I will show. So, suppose we have a tic-tac-toe game. Just a game like suppose there is a tic-tac-toe game, right? We have some tic-tac-toe game, okay? Now, generally what happens? in this tic-tac-toe game, write this, that is some tic-tac-toe game. I started my move here. Now my opponent started the move here. Now I will guarantee that I will win the game. Nobody can play with me now. 100% I am going to win the game. No chance at all. No chance. You can't stop. Because now I have certain trick pattern. What is that pattern? My next move. So my next move, how do we define this? Right? My next move will be suppose here. Then obviously his move must be here. My next move will be here. Then game done. That means I can close the game here. I can close the game here. That means how you confidently say that I can win the game? Because I know the pattern. Software development is also like this. You can't implement your tricks in software development. You have to follow the path followed by previous people. If you try to create something new by your own, lot of issues will come. We don't take chance. Right? That is the reason. You see, you are learning any technology. You got some error. You go to Google and post that error. There are already answers posted about it. How they know that you will come with this problem? 5 years back, 10 years back, they already posted that. They know that you will come with this problem because they know that you are going to follow this approach. And they know that everybody will follow this approach. And they have a solution for you. Remember, majority of the solutions, they will say, better try this approach. They will not try to correct your code. They will simply say, try this. Because for this situation, this is wrong approach. You try this approach, you will succeed. So in software development like that, 23 major patterns are designed by a group of 4 people. We call them gang of 4. And these patterns we use in our software designing in every technology, Java, .NET, PHP, Python, everywhere, so that we can minimize the issues. Why you are following these patterns? Because they are tested, they are proven. If they are tested and proven, so follow it. Don't try anything new because they will lead to a lot of issues. You have to resolve by yourself. If you follow the design patterns which are already tested and proven, then you can minimize the issues. That is what generally we do everywhere. And like that, there are 23 design patterns. It's a big concept actually. I just explained one scenario about that. And you can see actually these are all various design patterns. These are all software design patterns. These are design patterns. We have 23 design patterns. We call them gang of 4 design patterns. They are categorized into 3: creational, structural, behavioral. And these are all creational patterns. Creational patterns are these: abstract, factory, builder, factory method, prototype, singleton. In JavaScript, you learned about object, right? It is actually a pattern of prototype. Object follows a pattern called prototype. That is the reason object is also called as a prototype of class. As a prototype of class, it follows a pattern called prototype. So these are structural patterns. Structural patterns deal with designing of classes. Adapter, bridge, composite, decorator, facet, fly, weight, proxy, all these are. These are actually structural patterns. We have behavioral patterns. These behavioral patterns deal with communication. These are all behavioral patterns. Chain of responsibility, interpreter, iterator, mediator, memento, observer, state. You learned state also. Right? You learned state. State belongs to which pattern? Behavioral pattern. These are all pattern names you are using actually. Iterator, state, and observer, all these are patterns. And see, iterator means sequentially access the elements of a collection. It is a built-in pattern which uses. That means if anybody asks, do you know any software design patterns? Obviously you will know. Any technology you are learning, at least 4 or 5 design patterns you will be working with. But you may not be aware of them. Right? But you know them. Is it possible that every developer can know all these 23 patterns? Impossible. No chance. Very difficult. Why? Because even you worked with 5-10 projects in your career, you may work with only 10-15 patterns regularly. You will not get a chance to implement all patterns in all projects, situation wise. And if you are applying for team lead, project lead like roles, design patterns knowledge is compulsory. Compulsory. Without that, we can't take you as a architect of any software development. That means team lead, project leads cannot be there without knowledge of design pattern, because they have to decide which pattern to follow for this module. They will decide what are the patterns need to be followed. That's the reason majority of the situations you see, suppose you see here, so I said some Naukri. Yeah. Suppose I am searching here. So front end developer. I'm just using front end developer. Let's say design patterns. You see, yeah, such specifically. You can see front end developers. You can see the front end developers. So you see the design patterns, senior web developers with experience, some options I will show you here. Design patterns. Mostly you will see that for every experienced people, design pattern. This will be in full stack development experience. They are asking design pattern means they will be asking for a lot of experience actually. So design patterns. These are all other this. So Java developer design. Okay, you can see here some design patterns related. Means these are all what it is showing something like full stack develop. These are all not 1-2 experience. They don't ask, because 1-2 experience we can't expect design patterns from them. So it is more than 8-10 years experience. Anywhere they are asking, they may ask for these design patterns. These are all very small experience programming. This is architect related. So these are all very less experienced jobs, because design patterns means leads. Leads means project leads. They are looking for project leads. So some full stack developers experience any person have. You can check there. So they will ask full stack developer with the design pattern somewhere. Mostly means I need to go in detail about them. In detail, if I go, I may find, means I need to open all of them. You check once by yourself. You check here. Senior web developer. They will specifically ask some design patterns also actually. That means which design pattern you need to be very strong in. Some design patterns they will ask. Here very less are there. Data modeling design. Okay, later we will see. You can check. You go through that in the job roles. You will find one. Anything like design patterns you will see. But once you see the design patterns, you will see a lot of experience asked for that. That means mostly 10 years, 15 years of experience. You can see this is actually 5 to 9 years. They are asking software design. Software design is nothing but actually that is related to design patterns only. That means they must be very strong in design patterns. So then it is important. You can see they said this is data patterns. Some detailed information. You can check in a different means detail open and see. You will see that design patterns will be there. Some companies will ask. This is usually leads. That means project lead, team lead. Only such people ask for design patterns. For normal people, means even you show 4-5 years experience, they will not ask design patterns much, because they don't think that you have awareness on all design patterns with 4 years experience, right? So we will see some design patterns in other situations. I will show you, right? But what is the design pattern here? It is following, event is following a design pattern called observer. Observer is the design pattern name. Observer is the design pattern name. Which mechanism it is following? Delegate mechanism. And one important thing you should know is we are using virtual DOM. Virtual DOM means actually all React events are of type. This is very important. Synthetic events are of type synthetic events. This is a very important question again for React people. All React events are of type synthetic event. They are derived from an event class called synthetic. That means in React, they are not directly browser events. All are derived from a class called synthetic events. That is the reason you generally write in JavaScript on click, right? Here you write on click, camel case. Actually, this is synthetic event and this is DOM event. This is DOM event. DOM event means we call as browser event. And this is not browser event actually. This is what? Synthetic event. So if any experienced React people asked you in interviews, what is the event type of events in React? Event types, all events are derived from a type called synthetic.